All right, welcome to the call, everybody. This is Jeremy Miner. Today's date here in the United States, depending on what country you're in, but if you're in the United States, where I'm at here, it is Tuesday, July 26th. It seems like this time of the year, around July 5th on till about August 20th, everybody's on vacation and trips, including us. We go some places here and there as well. So welcome to the call. If you made it, you might be calling in from vacation or at work. If you're over in Europe, you're about to go to bed. If you're in Australia, we've got a lot of Australian and New Zealand members as well. You guys are early in the morning, especially if you're in Australia. You're about 6 or 7 in the morning, depending on your time zone. So we welcome you to the call. So once again, if you're brand new, if you're a member of the 8-Week Academy, you know me pretty well by now. You've gone through most of my sales training programs and products. If you've enrolled in the 21-Day Sales Challenge, we do invite some of you pretty much the members to the call as well. 21-Day Sales Challenge is a basic introduction to my training. I know a lot of people get that and like, oh my gosh, I'm having amazing results with the 21-Day Sales Challenge, and that's great. I love hearing that, but what they don't understand is it's probably about 3% of my training. It's just a little pieces of the puzzle, which does help, but you know, I'm glad they're having results with the 21-Day Sales Challenge. So welcome if you're a member of the 21-Day Sales Challenge or other products as well, along with the 8-Week Academy members. So introduction real quick. I'll keep this brief so I don't bore you guys to death. My name is Jeremy Miner, of course. I'm the founder of the company here, Seven Figure Sales Training. When I was in my sales career, I was ranked number 45th in the entire world. In the world of direct sales, out of over 120 million salespeople selling anything, making over, 2.4, 2.5 million a year as a sales professional, just like you guys are sales professionals. And if you're just starting in sales, we're going to teach you how to get to be a sales professional. So my main goal with these training calls is to really help all of you get into that top 1% bracket as a sales professional. You know, getting you up to, first of all, that $250,000 a year range, no matter what you're selling, getting you up to that $500,000 range. We've had some members that have gone through the 8-Week Academy that now make 7 figures a year as salespeople in their jobs, which is kind of crazy. So congratulations to you guys. So what I'm going to do, first of all, we usually, if you're brand new to the call, we do about 40 to 45 minutes of training, and then we open up the lines for another 40 to 45 minutes of Q&A where you guys can ask me any question, really. Any question about the training, any questions about how to tie the training you're learning from me into what you sell, or just any questions in general. So what we're going to do right now is we usually go over a blog that I write every week that usually gets kind of spread all over the internet, but we're going to talk about a blog that I wrote about 4 months ago, and it's called The Top 3 Shocking Reasons That You Keep Losing Sales. And I want you to kind of really remind yourself, if you've heard me talk about these 3 things before, this is going to be a good check-in, a good reminder for you. If you're brand new to some of my training, this is probably going to be a little bit, kind of startling. You know, it's good to understand where we're at as salespeople and understand the reason why we're not getting those results is not necessarily our prospects, but it's how we're communicating to our prospects. And once we learn how to take that responsibility and learn the skills necessary to have success, then our whole world opens up to us. And I'm going to tell you a little story real quick before we get into this blog. And then after we go through this blog, we're going to talk, we're going to train on what I call solution awareness questions. Okay? So my wife was talking to me the other day. She's a health coach. And she was telling me about one of her clients, and this client is in what's called like a network marketing opportunity, and she sells some type of weight loss products. I'm not really quite sure what it is. It looks like really good products. And my wife was asking her questions, and one thing that she says, I need to lose weight, I need to do this. Some things I'm really good at is I'm really good at selling. And my wife knows this person from church, and the issue is she's told my wife that she only makes about $2,000 a month. $2,000 a month. But yet she was telling my wife that she's got sales down, that she's an awesome salesperson, yet she's only making $2,000 a month. And so I'm sitting here thinking to myself, if you're only making $2,000 a month in your sales career, to this lady from the church, then that means you're probably not necessarily, you don't have the skills to make you a great salesperson. You're actually below average. So a lot of times people think they're awesome at sales, but really the income is the proof of that. The income are the facts, the proof, not just how well we think we're a salesperson, not just how well we think we are. You know, one of the biggest words you ever want to avoid, so if you have your potential customers tell you the following words, you know that you're probably not very good at sales. And this is kind of going to contradict itself, and I'll explain to you what I mean. So if a prospect that you're selling to says, wow, Amy, you are a great salesperson. You can sell anything to anybody. I will tell you, if they're telling you that, they're probably not buying from you because they feel like you are trying to sell them. They feel that sales pressure from you. So if you ever hear the words from your prospects that, hey, you're a great salesperson, ask yourself how many of those people ever bought from you that told you that. Probably very few. The greatest salespeople in the world are people where the prospect does not even feel like they were sold at all. They feel like they made the decision themselves, and the salesperson was just there as the facilitator, helping them get to that logical and emotional conclusion. That is the greatest salespeople. The top 1%, you would never hear prospects saying, you're a great salesperson. I would dread those words if somebody ever told me that when I was in my sales career. So I want you to think a little bit about that. So here's how the blog starts. So I start off the blog, and I ask salespeople, have you ever wondered why you keep losing sales that you thought you had? So you thought you had the sale, but you lose it. And what I find when salespeople come to me, especially when I'm training them one-on-one, is that most salespeople in the very beginning blame their prospects. So they blame their prospects for losing the sale. They don't blame themselves. And they say things like this, well, you know, the prospect wasn't necessarily qualified for my product or service. Or the prospect, you know, they didn't really see the need. Or, you know, they didn't really have the money. Or they just weren't serious about solving their problems. Or they weren't serious enough about changing their situation. And the list of excuses goes on for 10 miles. You know, and I hear these excuses when they first come to me. But in reality, the reasons why most salespeople lose 9 out of 10 sales that they could have made is because of the way they're communicating to their potential customers, to their prospects. So I'm going to give you, and like I said, you don't have to write this down. We always record these calls. You always can go back and write down things from the calls. But I'm going to give you the top 3 reasons why salespeople lose sales. And you might want to look at yourself and like, hey, am I doing one of these 3 things? Or am I doing all 3 of these? What I find is most salespeople, I would say 80%, are doing all 3 of these things. Okay, so reason number 1, write this down. So write this title down. You're viewed as just another salesperson by your prospects. You're viewed as just another salesperson by your prospects. So let me ask you, have you ever stopped and wondered how your prospects actually view you? Have you? What sets you apart from every other salesperson trying to sell your potential customer something? What sets you apart? You see, like you've heard in some of my training, selling has dramatically changed even in the last 5 to 8 years. Because with the power of technology, especially social media, and the ease of the internet that we have today, we live in a completely different world, a completely different era. You see, because we have to understand that the consumer knows all about your company. They know all about your products, your services, your pricing. They know who your competitors are. They know how long you've been in business. They know everything about you by simply doing a Google search on their phone or their computer. And because of this technology, your potential customer will no longer be manipulated or pressured by pushy, manipulative salespeople because they know they have many other choices to choose the exact product or service that you sell. They know they have many choices, okay? So we have to understand that our potential customers, and really all of us for that matter, we live in a 24/7, I always say 300-plus channel where everyone's always connected to the online world. And this huge effect of this is that countless companies and salespeople are trying to sell your prospects something all of the time, and everyone's competing for their attention and their money. Think about it. How many times are you constantly sold every day? When you turn on the TV, you're constantly sold things, right? You're sold things by celebrities. You're sold things by commercials. You turn on the radio. They're selling commercial ads on the radio. You drive down the road. You see billboards trying to sell you something. You get on Facebook, and your neighbor's promoting the latest, greatest business opportunity, trying to sell you into that. Or your neighbor's selling, some pills or whatever. So you're constantly being sold. So if you're constantly being sold all the time, realize that your prospects are always going through that process as well. They're getting constantly sold by salespeople all the time, okay? So here's my question. So if you're still using what I call the old model of selling, we call it traditional selling techniques of posturing your prospects, assuming the sale, and being pushy, especially in complex sales or with buyers that are smart, most of your potential customers will look at you as just another salesperson who's trying to stuff your solution down their throat. You have to understand that. So they treat you like every other salesperson by being defensive towards you, throwing out objections, and rejecting what you're offering. Okay, so we have to understand that. So what's the solution to that? And that's why we have these training calls. That's why we have the 8-week academy. That's why we have the 21-day sales challenge and all these other products, is we have to learn how to ask very skilled questions. So not just any questions, but very skilled questions, and we have to learn when to ask those questions at the right time in the conversation that will take you deeper into that conversation with your prospect. Now, we ask them in the right tone, in a very calm, relaxed, conversational way. Then we sit back and we listen to their answers. Then ask more questions to probe deeper. And when you learn how to do this effectively, your potential customer will want to stay engaged with you, communicate with you, and ultimately buy from you and do business with you. That's the difference. So when you focus on your potential customer's world or your prospect's world and what they're looking for, and this is I always say in most of my products here, when you're focusing on your prospect's world and what they're looking for, rather than just focusing on your world and your agenda of just trying to make the sale, you're going to notice what? You're going to notice that your prospects will become very open to you and treat you with respect. They'll want you to stay longer. They'll want to come for you for advice on anything that they're doing, okay? So they'll start to view you as the trusted authority in your industry rather than just another salesperson who's there to sell them the latest, greatest gadget, okay? So that's the number one reason. So here's the number two reason, and I want you to write this down as well, okay? You're a product pusher. So you're a product pusher instead of being a problem finder and problem solver. So you're a product pusher instead of being a problem finder and problem solver. So 99% of salespeople, especially when they come to me, are what I call product pushers, even if they don't think they're product pushers. So a lot of people will be like, oh, I ask good questions. And then when I hear, because I usually have salespeople record themselves and listen to it when I do one-on-one training with them, and then I find out, well, actually you are a product pusher. All you're doing is talking about your solution, okay? But it's not their fault. It's not your fault because they've been taught by their companies and they've been taught by what I call the old sales gurus. I was taught the same thing 15 years ago when I first got into sales, that we just needed to ask a few questions to find the needs of the prospect. And then we're taught to do what? Go into our sales pitch, right? Present all of the features and benefits and advantages of how our product is the best and how much it's going to help them, blah, 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 blah. But here's what you might want to consider. Whose opinions are these? Whose opinions? Well, they're yours, of course. And who do you think your prospects care more about? Do you think they care about your opinions and your agenda of trying to make the sale? Or do you think they're more concerned about themselves and what they're looking for. Now, if you've been through any of my training, you would know, according to behavioral science, that your prospects obviously care more about themselves and what they're looking for. They don't give a crap about you trying to make the sale. Okay, in fact, it turns them off. Okay, so what's the solution? Remember, as sales professionals, because I call all of you sales professionals, once you learn the skills, you become a sales professional. But you have to remember that as a sales professional, to get into the top 1% of all salespeople in your industry, you have to be the best at problem finding and problem solving. So you become the best. You become an expert as a problem finder and problem solver, because it's not enough in the era that we live in today. We call that the post-trust era, to be just good at solving problems. It's just not enough. Okay, 10, 15, 20 years ago that might be enough, but not anymore. We're in a different era. So you must now be better at problem finding. And what that means is you're uncovering problems or challenges they might not know they have. Okay? And you can only do that by what? By asking skilled questions at the right time in the conversation. There's no other way to do that. So without helping them uncover their own problems, it's obviously impossible to be a problem solver, right? Because we've always been told. I was told 15 years ago. I went through all these events and different sales trainers, and they'd always say, the greatest salespeople are excellent at problem solving, and that makes sense, right? Because they can access their potential customers' needs and then deliver the solution. And this, like I said, this ability to solve your prospects' problems matters to your success. It does, 100% for sure. But today, when information is what I call abundant and accessible rather than limited and hard to find, it matters a lot less. Because after all, if your prospect knows precisely what their problem is, okay, let's say that they want to buy a new laptop computer, or let's say they want to go on a 20-day vacation. They're looking for a travel package. Well, they can find that information out to make a decision without you, the salesperson, right? Because the services offered by salespeople are far more valuable when your prospects are mistaken, confused, or clueless about what their problems actually are. In those situations, the ability to persuade others hinges a lot less on problem solving and more on problem finding. Okay? And remember, only a short time ago, buyers faced several challenges of solving their problems on their own, right? Because, 20 years ago, they had to rely on salespeople because the salesperson had access to information that buyer did not have access to, right? What was a bridge between the consumer and the companies 20, 30 years ago? It was you, the salesperson, right? Besides TV ads and radio ads, there was really no other way they could learn about products or services but by salespeople. But with the internet and social media now, they can find out everything before they even talk to you. So to be in the top 1% of salespeople in your industry, you have to be an expert, write this down, problem finder. You have to be the best at problem finding. Now let me give you another reason. So this is the third reason. Then we're going to jump into do some training on solution awareness questions, what I call them, for about 20 minutes, and 25 minutes, and then we're going to go to the Q&A. So the third reason why you keep losing so many sales, and I don't say that to be mean or to be grudgingly arrogant or anything. I'm just going off experience. I used to do these same three things before I learned how to sell in our era that we live in today. I was doing the same three things. So I don't blame you at all. That's the way you're taught. That's the way I was taught, okay? So number 3, write this down, your outward enthusiasm. So your outward enthusiasm is causing your prospects to run away from you. Your outward enthusiasm, your excitement, is causing your prospects to run the other way. Now here's one of the biggest myths in selling, and I cannot believe it's still taught today. It just blows my mind, okay? Here's the myth, that you have to be extremely enthusiastic on the outside about what you sell. You have to believe in it so much. You have to be so excited about your product or service, and when your customer sees how excited you are, they're just going to be excited about it too. And like I said, hearing this, it doesn't make any sense, because you can never assume that just because you're excited and pumped up and enthusiastic about what you sell, that your prospects are just going to be excited as well. In fact, it does quite the opposite in our time, okay? Because in the new economy we live in today, your potential customers are quite different than they were 10, 15, 20 years ago, because they are used to every salesperson doing what? Being excited, having the big Cheshire smile on their face, right? Eagerly waiting to pitch and sell them their product or service. So what's happened? Your potential customers have built up defensive walls. Write that down. They built up defensive walls to protect themselves from enthusiastic salespeople. The red flag comes up right when it happens. So they feel your outward enthusiasm from you. They're going to do one of two things. And write down both of these things. And let me know if you've noticed that this happens to you. Number one, when you're too excited on the outward, they're going to either withdraw from you because you've overwhelmed them, and they disappear from you. They don't return your calls, your emails, or text. Now, in your mind, has that ever happened to you? You're talking to a prospect, everything's going great. You set up an appointment, you were so excited, and then when that appointment comes, they just don't show up. And then they don't return your calls. They don't get back from your voicemails that you leave. They don't respond to your emails. Or if they do respond to the emails, they give you an excuse of coming back in a week, a month, a year, 3 years later. Now be real with yourself. Does that ever happen to you? Now you know why. And number two, so if they don't withdraw from you and just disappear, they will get defensive, right? They throw out objections. And they reject you and what you're selling. Does that ever happen to you? Okay? Now you know why. So once we understand why these things are happening to us by the way we've been taught how to communicate, now we know where our foundation is, and now we learn the skills necessary to have success. And I'm not talking little success. I'm talking at least $250,000 a year in income in sales, at least. I'm more talking about $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, and many salespeople I've gotten far above that range in their sales profession. Okay, and we're not talking gross sales. We're talking net income to the salesperson. Huge difference, okay? So what's the solution to this? You're going to switch your enthusiasm that you have outwardly and keep it on the inside with you. Now you're excited about what you sell, but you keep that to yourself. You know, when I was in my sales career, I loved what I sold, but I kept it to myself, right? Because you're going to learn how to be calm and relaxed when you're communicating with your potential customers. You're going to be conversational, like you're talking to a family member or friend, and you're going to notice how your prospects will start to open up to you and treat you like an advisor, an authority figure, rather than the dreaded salesperson who's trying to stuff his or solution down their throat. So I want you to really think about that today, what we just talked about. Make sure you've got those three things written down, and make sure you're staying away from those three things. Okay? All right, so now we're going to do some training on what I call solution awareness questions. So I want you to go ahead and write this down. Now, if you remember the 21-day sales challenge, this is going to be brand new for you. We don't even talk about solution awareness questions in the 21-day sales challenge. Like I said, the 21-day sales challenge is a very basic intro to my training. It's probably 3% of what I actually train on, okay? Very, very good intro, though, okay? If you remember the 8-week academy and you've gone through all of the weeks, you'll probably recognize some of this training. So this is going to be a good reminder for you and might help you really pick it up a little bit more than just going through the 8-week academy, okay? So the last probably 5 or 6 training calls, we've talked about connecting questions. We've talked about what I call situation questions. And we talked about what I call problem awareness questions. Now we're going to teach you today about what's called solution awareness questions. Now, we only have probably about 16, 17, 18 more minutes. We're going to go through these, then I'm going to open up for Q&A. I like to give all of you guys 30 to 45 minutes to ask me any questions you have. That's really why I do these calls for the most part, is really for the Q&A. That probably helps you the most, okay, to master the materials. So if you remember, at this point in the solution question, so if you remember the new model of selling, 85% of the new model of selling is called what? It's called the engagement stage, okay? So we're in the part where of the conversation where if you've asked the right problem awareness questions with your prospect, as we've talked probably in the last 2 or 3 trainings, what you've done is you've demonstrated to your prospect that you're completely different than any other salesperson they've ever met with or spoke with on the phone before. You're completely different. And your prospects will feel that from you because you're now starting to become more of an insider with your prospects, while your competitors are just hearing the facts, okay, because that's all they get. They don't go deep enough with their questioning ability. They hear the facts, the logic. You're hearing the whole story. So not only are you getting the facts, but more importantly, what are you getting? You're getting their feelings. You're getting their emotions. And when do people make buying decisions? Is it based on logic or their emotions? They always make it on their emotions or the way it makes them feel 100% of the time, okay, as human beings. So you know way more, okay, and because you know more, you're seen in the eyes from your prospect as being the most qualified to solve their problems. So your competition is completely eliminated. It doesn't matter about your price. You could charge 50% more than your competitors, and you're going to still win the business 9 out of 10 times. So a huge stepping stone is in place at this point for you in your sales conversations, because they're now viewing you as a trusted authority rather than a sleazy, pushy salesperson who's they're trying to get rid of, who's just trying to sell them something. So your prospects' emotions, their feelings, will always determine if they purchase from you. Now, we've talked about, I believe in the last training call, we talked about what I call asking 7-figure probing questions. And I'm going to give you a few of these. I gave you a few of them last week, but if you're brand new to the training, I want you to have them this week. The probing questions such as this. Amy, I sense that you might be frustrated by that. Can you tell me more? Or, John, from what you said, what type of impact has that had on you? Oh, it's had a big impact. Well, in what way, though? Okay, so we're probing deeper in the conversation. You can ask this question. Well, Sally, why is that important to you now, though? Or why is this important for you to do now? Or I sense that this might be something more to this. I sense that there might be something more to this. Can you tell me more? Or you can ask this. John, has that put you in a tougher position? So, John, with these accounts coming on board and not having the proper staff like you had mentioned, has that put you in a tougher position? Oh, yeah, for sure it has, for sure. Well, in what way, though? Well, it's done this, it's done that, and you're going deeper. You can ask this question. Well, how does that affect you, Sally? How does that affect you? Okay, so those are examples of different probing questions you can ask. Now, obviously, you're not going to be fast enough to write those down word for word, but we do record these, so you can go back and write these down, okay? You'll be able to view these probably by later tonight. We usually put them in your membership area. So you have to understand that your potentials, so your prospects, you have to know that they understand themselves and what they're looking for probably more than you do, right? Because they know their own story better than anyone else, right? And how things are in their world and how they've actually gotten to that point in their lives or that situation. Now, what you have to also understand is they might not understand fully how your solution or your product or service that you sell fits into that understanding of their world and their needs quite yet. They won't understand that until you learn how to ask the right skilled questions at the right time. So your prospect doesn't yet know, and write this down, how to join the past and the future together quite yet. Okay? So at this point, you've basically helped your potential customer create a picture of their past and their present situation. So your situation questions, where you're finding out what their present situation is, your problem awareness questions, where you're finding out what their problems are, that's really what's going on in their past and in their present situation. Okay, you did that by asking easy-to-answer questions. If you remember the 8-Week Academy, you've learned what those questions are in your sales process. Okay, so you found out what their present situation is from asking those questions. Now your potential customer's need is almost complete and ready for you to offer them what you sell, your solution, but not quite yet. This is the difference of becoming just, a salesperson who makes 80, 100, 150 grand a year to salespeople who make 250, 400, 500,000 a year, even 7 figures a year. And here's one of the biggest differences, okay? You don't give your solution to them at this point yet. It's not time yet, okay? Because at this point you have to help your prospect broaden the horizon of what their picture is. This is where you will help them look at actually doing something about changing their situation, about solving their problems they've told you they've had. Okay? So rather than them just talking about it, now they want to do something about solving it, about progressing. You will help them look at and get them involved with coming up with a solution to solve the problems they just told you they actually had. Now, the elements of this new picture of theirs will be helping them make their decision, and their decision begins to help them see and change their situation. Okay? So your job with solution questions is to ask them so your prospect can think and start to own their own problems rather than just you owning them yourself. See, most salespeople become so attached to their prospects' problems, they become so needy that they own their prospects' problems, whereas the salesperson owns them and the prospect doesn't own them on at all. Guys, hold on one second. My wife has called me like 6 times in a row. I'm going to text her to make sure she understands I want to call, just making sure she's okay. Hold on. Okay, just making sure she's okay. So I want you to write these down. Research shows that the top salespeople in the entire world, top 1%, are the best at asking more solution questions than our average salespeople. So I'm going to give you 4 reasons why solution questions are the key to helping your customer solve their problem and you making the sale. Number 1, your prospects will tell you, and more importantly themselves, what they see as the benefits and advantages of solving their problem. So they're going to tell you, but more importantly, who are they telling? They're going to tell themselves how they see them solving the problem is going to benefit them. You see the difference? Rather than you telling them how it's going to benefit them, they tell themselves how it's going to benefit them. Do you think that's more persuasive? Number 2, you get the picture of how your prospect thinks and what they're prepared to do about it, if anything. Number 3, their ideas become part of the solution as they start to own their own problems and tell you, and more importantly, tell themselves how them changing it will make them feel. How by them changing it is going to make them feel. They're going to tell you, but more than they're going to tell themselves. And number 4, they will attach their emotions to the outcome of them solving their problems. So they're going to attach their emotions to the outcome of them solving. So they know that once they solve it, this is how it's going to make them feel to solve it. You see how that works? Now, write this down as well. So I don't know if you guys read a lot. I read about 3 to 4 books a month. I'm kind of a bookworm here. But one of the greatest journalists in the world, if you guys have ever heard of Rudyard Kipling, wrote in 1902. He said this, and try to write this down if you can. If you can't write it down, if you're out of time here, this is what he says. Okay. So like I said, this is all going to be recorded. So if you can't get the live version, jump in the recording. Okay. He says this. He says, "I keep 6 honest serving men. They taught me all I knew. They were what and why and when and how and where and who." Let me repeat that. They were what and why and when and how and where and who. So Kipling believed that the answers he received from his 6 questions, what, why, when, how, where, who, served him workable stories. So those same questions can be turned toward your prospects in finding out what they've done about actually doing something, about changing, and how it would make them feel to actually solve the problem they told you they had. So their answers that they give you from your skilled questions help them, and I say this in two forms, consciously and subconsciously see that when they take action, so when they do something about this, they're going to change their situation, solve their problems, and they will start to feel the positives, how it makes them feel to actually do something about it. So this is the power behind solution questions you ask. They help your prospect come up with the solution rather than you telling them or you having them tell them what the solution will be. So now, I will tell you, don't get me wrong on this. There will be a place for you to bring up your solution. We go over that when we talk about the presentation stage, which is about 10% of the new model of selling. We'll probably go over that about 4 or 5 weeks from now in these training calls, but we're not quite there at this point. So during the solution stage, you're going to bring up some of how you can help them, but you're not going to dump it all of it on them at this point. It's not the time. One of the quickest ways that most salespeople get rejected is because they bring up their solutions far too early in the conversation. Far too early in the conversation. Okay? So at that point, they get objections. So during the solution stage, you're going to bring up some of it, but not all of it. Okay? And we've talked about this in other training. Salespeople who are still using the old model of selling, we call it traditional selling techniques, feel that because they have all of the knowledge about their product or service, that they have to demonstrate that to the prospect quickly to appear that they're competent and smart. But it's exactly the opposite. Your excitement for telling your prospect what you know too early in the conversation will keep you from discovering what your prospect actually knows. Never let your need to tell, and write this down, stand in your way of allowing your prospects to give you the answers of what they're looking for. Okay? So the key for you, if you want to become, a high six-figure earner, and I'm talking about at least $250,000, $300,000 a year income in sales or more, okay? Especially if you want to become a seven-figure salesperson. The key is to use your knowledge in asking skilled questions, not to tell your prospects what you know. The old adage you might have heard in the past is telling is not selling. That is true. And we take it even further than that here. So you can actually ask solution questions at any time during the conversation. They come in different forms and can be used in different situations. So here are two basic questions that you're asking your prospect, okay? And you're not going to ask this specifically, but this is the overview. What have you done about changing your situation? So you want to ask solution questions around what they've done about changing in the past. What have they done in the past about changing the situation? Or what would they do if they could? So you have to realize that many of your prospects are looking for ways to solve their problems. And they might have explored different ways to do that, but let's say they came up empty or they tried other things and they didn't have success in solving their problems. So for the way for you to find out what they've done is to simply ask some of the following solution questions. And I'm going to give you some examples of these before we go into Q&A. We've got about 5 more minutes before we go into Q&A. So try to write these down if you can. So, John, have you been out there looking for anything that would give you what you told me you're looking for? So, John, have you been out there looking for anything that would give you what you're wanting? So that would be a generic solution question. Now, depending on your industry or product or service, you would wrap that around more about what you sell, but it goes on the basis of like this. So, Sally, have you been out there looking for anything that would give you what you're wanting? Or this question, have you been out there looking for blank that would blank? So if you've been out there looking for blank, that would blank. You're going to plug in what they told you they're wanting, that would solve the problem told you they had. So let me give you some examples from 3 or 4 different industries. And I just randomly select these guys, okay? I've trained salespeople in hundreds of different industries, if not thousands at this point. I've had 80-some thousand people since I launched training salespeople about 4 months ago since I launched the 21-day sales challenge. Of 80-plus thousand people have already gone through it in the first 3 months. Many of those people have gone on to purchase other products, especially the 8-Week Academy. So let's say that, for example, you sell financial services. it might look like something like this. So this would be a solution question for financial services. I'm just going to give you some random examples from different industries. John, so before we actually talk today, were you out there looking for different investments that could possibly give you a higher return than what you're presently getting? So, John, before we actually had our meeting today, were you out there looking for different investments that would possibly give you a higher return than what you're getting now? That would be a solution question. You're asking them if they've been out there looking for your solution, different investments that would give them what they told you they're looking for. So if they said in that example, I'm looking for an investment that can make me more money, you just plug that in. And this is an example for financial services, solution question for that industry. All you do is plug in what you sell and what they told you they're looking for. So in this example, like I said, financial services, your prospect has already told you they're looking for a higher return on their money. You're just plugging that in depending on your product or service that you sell. Now, let me give you another example from another industry. Let's say that you sell franchises. I've got some people that I'm training now one-on-one for franchise sales, like big sales. You know, these are $1 million plus franchises that they're selling. So you could ask something like this. This would be a solution question for that industry. Amy, so before you found us here at XYZ Franchise, were you out there looking for franchises that you could start to make more money than what you're doing at your job right now? So, Amy, before you found us here at XYZ Franchise, were you out there looking for a business you could start to make more money than what you're doing now? So in this example, you sell business franchises, and Amy, from your skilled questions you've asked, has already told you she wants to have her own business because she wants to have more flexibility than her job. So she's already told you that. You're just plugging it into the solution question. Or what have you done about changing this, if anything? That would be another solution question. So, John, what have you done about changing this, if anything? Now, let's say that you sell insurance. I'm going to give you another example from another industry. Like I said, it doesn't matter your product or service you sell. You're just plugging it into the solution awareness question formula. So, Stuart, I'm just curious. What have you done in the past about getting a policy that could possibly give your family more protection in case something did happen to you? Now, you're not being over-aggressively saying, what are you going to do if you die? You're going to leave your family here to rot by themselves without having financial backing? I've heard salespeople say that. It's quite awful and turns most people off. So, Stuart, what have you done in the past about getting a policy that could give your family more protection in case something did happen to you? And now, in this example, let's pretend that the gentleman already had an existing insurance policy. Let's say we're selling life insurance for this example. Okay, like I said, it doesn't matter your product or service. So from your skilled questions that you asked before, you had found out that his wife was putting pressure on him to increase their policy value, as you found out from going deeper in the conversation from your skilled questions that when she was a child, her dad had passed away and left her and her mom with very little money. And because of that, she has a very deep fear that it could possibly happen to her again. So do you see how by you going deeper with your questions in the conversation, asking more solution questions, it helps your prospect persuade themselves? Now, if they tell you they tried to solve their problems in the past or out there looking for solutions now, you're going to do what? You're going to ask them to expand on that because you want to go deeper, right? If you want to be at the very top in your sales industry, you have to go deeper with your questioning ability. You have to ask more what we call under the surface questions. You have to go deeper. And I always talk about this in different trainings, if you've gone through the 8-Week Academy especially. It's like peeling the layers off of an onion, okay? The more layers you peel off, meaning the more skilled questions you ask for clarification and to go deeper, the more your prospect will persuade themselves that they want to make a change and they want to make that change with you. Average salespeople just take off a few layers of that onion, just ask a few questions to find out some needs, and then go into their sales pitch. They don't go deep enough, so they don't make the sales that they could be if they had learned skilled questions and how to ask them at the right time in that conversation to go deeper and peel most of the layers off of that onion. So whatever they've done about changing their situation in the past, you're going to ask them how they got involved with their other solution. Maybe they were with a different company who did the same service you do. Maybe they had a different product. You're going to find out what worked for them, what didn't work, what they would have changed if they could have, and what criteria they would use and want to make a decision to do something else or to do business with someone else. Okay? So the formula is simple. John, before we started talking, were you out there looking for blank? That would blank. Okay? So John, before we started talking, were you out there looking for a higher quality lead that could give your salespeople more of an opportunity to sell, which would give your company more ROI, more return? If you sold leads, guys, it doesn't matter what you sell. You're just plugging what they're looking for and how that what they're looking for is going to solve their problem. That's the formula with solution questions. Okay? Now, next week we're going to train a lot more on solution questions as well. We're probably going to do another 30 or 40-minute training on solution questions next week, so make sure you're on next week. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to open it up for Q&A for the next 30 to 40 minutes probably, and then I'm going to take my kids out here to the pool. At the lake house we have this huge pool right out by the lake too, so it's kind of fun. We go jump in the pool, and sometimes we just go jump in the lake, and it's just a bunch of water around here in these parts. So if you've got a question, what I want you to do is when you come out, tell me what your name is, what industry you're in, and what you sell, and what products of mine you've actually gone through. Because if you've only gone through the 21-day sales challenge compared to some people who have gone through the 8-week academy, I'm going to know your understanding is a little bit different of what I teach. Okay, so that helps me a lot to answer your question. So whoever has the first question, like I said, we got about 30 to 40 minutes of Q&A. Press star 6 on your phone and just come out. And who's got the first question? Star 6 on your phone.
Hi, Jeremy.
Yeah, who's this?
Hi, Jeremy. This is Alan. I called in last week. My name's Alan from San Diego, and I purchased your 8-week course. I've completed the 3rd week. Last week I asked you a question, but I was only at week 2.
Okay. Yeah, so week 1 and week 2 of the 8-week academy are more of the mindset or the psychology behind the new model of selling and how selling's changed and having the right mindset for that. And week 3 through 8, like you're starting to understand by just going through week 3, is more the specifics, the right questions to ask, when to ask those. What do you sell, Alan?
I work in mobile branding. We sell mobile business cards that help business professionals capture leads, brand themselves, and follow up all through the mobile platform. And the large majority of my clients are realtors. The way that I connect with these realtors is actually from cold calling. I get a list from my marketing team, and I cold call these realtors to share with them our service.
So question I have for you. When you say cold calling, are these realtors who've responded to some type of ad anywhere about having better marketing, or are they just like randomly taking a number out of the phone book and they have no clue that anyone's going to call them?
Yep, it's they have no clue whatsoever, and I'm just calling them and reaching them out for the first time. And so far, I haven't implemented anything yet. Like I said, I just completed the 3rd week.
But what my suggestion would be, Alan, is go through all of the 8-week academy first.
Okay.
Print off the script of the questions to ask at each stage at the end of week 8, and really start to really go through that before you change. Because if you just go through week 3 and start to ask some questions, then you're going to revert back to your old way very quickly, and then probably get the same results. You might get a little bit better results, but you have to have an understanding of the whole process, not like little bits and pieces to have major results. You'll have some results. I will tell you, I've had people go through the 21-day sales challenge, and they're like, wow, my sales have doubled. And I'm like, wow, like 3% of what I teach. I mean, I can't wait for you to actually learn everything I teach. You're going to, you'll be a millionaire. So,
Absolutely.
So what's your question?
I guess I haven't finished everything, but just up to week 3, I'm just looking for a better way to connect with these realtors. When I call them, I guess I'm not. I'm having trouble creating the what do you call that? The statement.
Problem statement. So
the problem statement. I'm sorry.
Question. Okay.
I'm having a little trouble creating a problem statement.
No worries.
Specific to realtors.
Okay.
And what I had wrote down was, I don't have it with me, of course. So.
Okay. No worries. Do your best.
The problem statement was what we do, right? That's the one, that problem statement?
Yes.
Oh, so I think I wrote down what we do is help realtors brand themselves, capture leads, and follow up on the mobile platform.
Okay. Can I make a suggestion?
Absolutely.
What in there has to do with any of their problems? Because that all sounded like your solution.
Yes, it did actually.
So that's, you're creating like something that like a solution statement, which we don't even have. So you want to focus on the problems that these realtors are having.
Okay.
Because when you call in and you tell them your solution, what do you sound like?
A salesman.
You sound like a salesperson that's just there trying to sell them your solution. But when you call in and you're only focused on their world and what their problems are, do you think they're going to be far more open to seeing what you can possibly do to help them solve those problems?
Sure.
So there's a different mindset in that. So, we talk about in cold calling, hi, is this John? Hey, John, this is Alan. I was wondering if you could possibly help me out for a moment. Sure, Alan. How can I help you? Well, I'm not sure you could. I was just calling to see if your company would be open to looking at any possible hidden gaps in your marketing that could be causing your firm to possibly lose sales to some of your competitors.
Okay.
Now, that would be more of a problem statement. Now, I don't know your industry like you do. That's just off the top of my head, Alan. I'd have to have some time to, like, if I work with you one-on-one, we would come in and, like, hone it in specifically to your industry, specifically with their products. But do you see the difference of my problem statement compared to what you're offering as your solutions?
Yes.
So I was just calling to see if your company would be open to looking at any possible hidden gaps in your marketing efforts that might be causing you to lose sales, home sales, to some of your competitors. Now, we would probably change that around a little bit more to be more specific, Alan.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think your realtor is going to be more open to hearing about how they might be losing sales rather than a salesperson calling them with some mobile marketing strategy solution?
Sure, absolutely.
You see the difference in that way of thinking? So a lot of times if you're doing it right, if you've got the right tonality, they're going to say, well, how do you do that? Or what do you mean by that? That's the normal response you should get, okay? Now, you should get that response 7 or 8 out of 10 times. There might be a couple people that are like, you know what, I'm too busy, get lost or whatever, like what are you doing? But for the most part, most people are going to be like, well, how do you do that? Or what do you mean by that? And then you're going to do what we call your personalized introduction. And you're going to say, well, you know how. Now, have you made your personalized introduction yet?
I don't have it with me, but I did make it, yes.
Okay. So I'd have to see that. Maybe post that on the Facebook group. Are you on the Facebook group?
I am. Okay.
Yeah, post that on the Facebook group. Let me look at it. Sometimes when people post something like that, it'll take me a couple of days before I even have time to look at it. But post that on there, and I can give you some suggestions, and we can work on it on the call next week if you bring it to the Q&A call. Now, some of you guys have realized you're busy during the day at work, so sometimes you miss the first 45 minutes of the training. You go back and listen to the recorded, but you at least hop on for the Q&A at the end. That's where they really tie in the training when I'm going through that Q&A. Okay?
Sure.
So just me right there telling you about, hey, your problem statement really is not a problem statement, it's more of a solution, is going to help you, because if you were using that, you would get rejected 95% of the time.
Yes, I do.
Not even know why. Like, well, my problem statement's not working. Well, you didn't realize that there was really no problems in there in the first place. You were just telling them your solution. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So just post that on the on the Facebook thread, and I'll definitely look at it in the next day or two, my friend.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeremy.
Yeah, no problem. Let's see. Okay, so who's got the next question? Star 6. Who's got the next question?
Hi, Jeremy.
Who's this?
This is Reginald Pryor from Jacksonville, Florida. I'm an affiliate marketer for home business.
Okay, did you say Reginald?
Yes, sir, Reginald Pryor.
Reginald, and you're in affiliate marketing. Okay, I'm very familiar with your industry. Okay, and then what type of, you do affiliate marketing, but do you do it for a certain company or products, or what do you usually do?
Yeah, for a certain company with products.
What
for
type
home
of products?
business.
Yeah, so home-based business. Okay, so what's your question, brother?
Yeah, I'm just curious. If you were to send out a 30-second commercial for voice broadcasting, how would you approach that for a home business with a new model of selling it?
Okay, so you're talking about a personalized introduction for being an affiliate marketer? Yeah, it's really easy.
Sir.
So just so you know, Reginald, I'm very familiar with your industry.
Mm-hmm.
My industries that I was in was when I first started in sales, 15 years ago, I started selling home security systems like ADT. Then I moved into selling affiliate marketing like you are, like network marketing. I ended up making over $2.5 million a year in your industry, ranked number 45 in the world. So I'm very familiar with your industry. And I also sold coaching services and marketing conferences where I even made more than that, made close to $3 million as a salesperson selling those. So I'm very familiar with your space. So if you, what products of mine do you have, Reginald, just so I know?
I have all your products.
You got the 21-day sales challenge. Do you have the 8-week academy?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if you go in the 8-week academy, or even in the 21-day sales challenge, I think in the 21-day sales challenge video number 5, I give an example of how to do a personalized introduction. I think even in that example, one of the examples I did one for affiliate marketers, and I believe that's in week 3 as well for affiliate marketers as well. I gave an example for 3 or 4 industries, and I think one of those I picked network marketing. But what you want to do with your personalized introduction, just so everybody on the call knows this, is you want to tell them. So somebody says, what do you do for a living, right? Especially if you're an affiliate marketer or in network marketing, you want people to ask you what you do for a living. But what do most salespeople in your industry say when somebody says, hey, Reginald, what do you do for a living? What do most salespeople say? Well, I'm an affiliate marketer. We
just pretty much tell them what we do and all that.
Yeah, and most people, probably don't join. I will tell you that. I mean, 99% of the people don't join when they're approached by somebody selling network marketing, right?
Just share your just share your information. Just share your information with everybody, right?
Yeah. So if you say I'm an affiliate marketer or I'm in network marketing, what does that even mean to that person? That doesn't mean anything. Most people don't even know what that even means, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you want to tell them, and this is no matter what you guys sell. If you're a dentist selling dental services, if you're a chiropractor trying to get a new patient, if you're an attorney trying to convince the jury that your client's innocent, if you're a pharmaceutical salesperson selling a doctor, if you're a car salesman selling a car, if you're a insurance salesman selling a policy, it doesn't matter. If you're selling boats or bombs, it does not matter. You want to tell the person how what you do helps other people. Let me repeat myself. You want to tell them how what you do helps other people. Okay, so let me give you an example for affiliate marketing. Okay, this is what you would do, Reginald. Let's say, Reginald, you say, well, Jeremy, what do you do for a living? Well, it's interesting you should ask that. You know how a lot of people nowadays are, sometimes finding it harder to get by with, the corporate downsizing, the lack of job security, the higher cost of living. Well, what I do, Reginald, is I help people like that set up their own full or part-time affiliate businesses from their home, so they can start taking care of themselves and their families again to earn extra income. Tell me, what do you do for a living?
Yeah,
how that works?
Yeah,
okay.
I see.
So you want to tell them 2 or 3 generic problems that they could associate themselves with. So for your industry, what are problems that most people have? Lack of income, lack of time, corporate downsizing, and the higher cost of living. Now, Do most people that you're talking to have any of those problems? Do they want to make more money? Do they want to have more time? Of course they do, right? 99% of the world wants to make more money and have more time, right? So it should be easy, okay? Mm-hmm. The reason why so many people get turned off from your industry is because of the way the salesperson communicates that. When it doesn't, it can be completely opposite. So you want to give them 2 or 3 generic problems that they can associate themselves with. So if you're a chiropractor, you would give them 2 or 3 problems that your patient could associate themselves with, like, oh yeah, that's me, or I know people that feel that way, right? So for affiliate marketing, corporate downsizing, lack of job security, and the higher cost of living, most people, if they don't have those problems, at least know somebody that does, right?
Right.
Everybody knows somebody that's lost a job. Everybody knows that the cost of living is going up, right? You don't have to be very smart to go that. Just go grocery shopping one day. Groceries from 2016 compared to 2008, they're probably 50% higher for the same thing you're buying, right? You don't have to be smart to understand that. So you know how, and you do it in a very calm and relaxed manner. You know how a lot of people nowadays are finding it harder to get by with, corporate downsizing, the lack of job security, the higher cost of living. Well, what I do is I help people like that set up their own full or part-time affiliate businesses from their home so they can start taking care of themselves and their families again. Now, I think you told me last week you're a nurse, or what do you do for a living? And you ask a situation question or a background question. See how that works? You're right into the conversation. And they say, well, I'm a nurse. Oh, how long have you been a nurse for? Oh, I've been 5 years. What got you involved in that? So you're taking them through situation questions and problem awareness, solution, and then you're basically showing them how what you do can help them. It's really that simple. And when you learn how to do that the right way in your industry, out of every 10 people you talk to, Reginald, you should be enrolling 6 or 7 or more of those people.
Right.
And if you're enrolling 6 or 7 out of every 10 you're talking to, Reginald, how much money do you think you're going to make within a year?
Yeah, it's multiple 6 figures.
And multiple 6 figures your first year, if not more, in that industry, for sure.
Right.
It's just on you and how you're communicating. Okay? Does that answer your question?
Absolutely.
All right, man. That was an awesome question. And that applies for any industry, guys. Your personalized introduction, you're just giving them 2 to 3 generic problems that they can identify with and how what you do helps solve those problems. It's really that simple. Okay? All right. So, Reginald, go ahead and mute back out. So star 6 again.
Star 6. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I think that'll mute you back out, brother. Good question. Okay, who's got the next question? Press star 6. I'm going to take probably 3 or 4
Jeremy.
more questions.
This is
Jeremy.
Hi, Jeremy. It's Chuck.
Chuck, and you always
Chuck Rosen.
I like it. All right, Chuck. Let's see. Now, tell me again. You sell like employee benefits?
That is correct. Good memory.
I'm starting to remember some of your guys' industry. So you sell employee benefits, and be more specific on employee benefits.
And 401k, health group like health, life, dental, vision, disability.
Okay. So you mainly call upon like companies that offer this, right?
Exactly. A lot of business to business. Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of B2B.
B2B. Okay. What's your question, brother?
So my question is this: so how do you handle the person who tries to basically generalize what it is you do? Like if you go through, you know how a lot of companies are struggling with the high cost of health insurance and the Affordable Care Act reporting requirements, and they go, "Oh, are you a broker?" Like when they automatically put you into the same pool, right? Where they're trying, you're a multi-level marketing, or you're whatever.
Sure, whatever you're selling. So I would change it up a little bit because I think that's a little bit more broad. I still think we need to get your problem statement more specific. That what you just told me is probably your personalized introduction, I'm assuming, right?
Right.
Okay. So you know how some employers nowadays, or you know how a lot of employers nowadays are sometimes, so you got to be a little bit more neutral there, Chuck, because I noticed what you said, you weren't as neutral. You were just assuming that everybody's having those problems. So you need to be a little bit more neutral. So you know how a lot of companies nowadays are sometimes Notice how that's kind of a neutral statement.
Mm-hmm.
Are sometimes frustrated because of Obamacare, and I can't remember what else you said there. And because of that, it's causing them to, XYZ their problems. Well, what I do is and then you got to be very specific. Now, if they say you're a broker, I guess you could call me that. It's a pretty boring name. You just joke about it. Don't worry about it if they call you a broker, right?
Right.
It's not that big of a deal. I mean, brokers are good people, right? They're not horrible people. They provide something they can help people. So
I think
in the same sense, if you were in network marketing, you're like, oh, is this network marketing? Yeah. What are your thoughts about network marketing? Or whatever it is, right? Are you trying to sell me an RV? Yeah. What are your thoughts about RVs? I mean, it doesn't really matter. Just be relaxed. I mean, it's not like they're, oh, you're a broker, like, oh my gosh, give me the pitchfork, As long as you're calm and relaxed about it, they can feel that. Now, do you mainly call them on the phone, or do you just go up to their business and talk to them?
Some of it's phone. Most of it is a warm lead processes, and sometimes it's a networking group. I use this more in the networking side of things when you're really face-to-face with somebody. Yeah,
so you can say, oh, yeah, I mean, I guess I'm, I'm pretty boring, but, thanks for the compliment, I guess, being a broker. You can just kind of joke about it. It's not that big of a deal, but be a little bit more neutral. Well, you know how a lot of companies nowadays sometimes, and not everybody, but sometimes get frustrated because of, and I don't know a lot about Obamacare, but because of Obamacare and whatever else you said,
right.
and it's causing them to XYZ. Well, what I do is I help companies like that XYZ. Now, tell me again, if you don't mind me asking, who do you guys actually use for your employee benefits or something like that? Like I said, I don't know your industry like you did.
Mm-hmm.
If I was working with you one-on-one, I could, get it more honed down, but just kind of over the phone, that's, kind of giving you a proper layout. And you need to be a little bit more neutral with what you just said there.
Sure.
And if they say, are you a broker? Yeah, for sure. I hopefully I'm not boring you to death, but, definitely a broker. Just kind of joke about it. It's not a big deal. Just be calm and relaxed if that happens.
Yeah, I think the neutrality, I think that's definitely the thing that I'm missing. So that's very, very helpful.
Yeah,
I'm just not neutral enough.
Yeah, because when you're assumptive, all assumptive selling does, especially in the sales that you're in, because it's more of a complex sale, right? It's not like you're selling a dollar screwdriver and you never see the person after 2 minutes, right? Yours is more of a complex sale. So especially in your industry, you have to be far more neutral because these people are used to what? Calling them every day. Assumptive salespeople. Well, I know I've got a solution for you, and we know we can do this for you, and we're better than your company you're at, and they're just assume. So remember, consumers have built up these walls of defense, right? So when certain language or certain wording that you use, when it becomes assumptive, it automatically throws up that red flag. And they're like, salesman. It just automatically triggers that. So if you just eliminate those words and just replace them with more neutral languaging, it's like them talking to a friend, right? You still control that conversation because you're in control, because you're asking those skilled questions, but they feel more comfortable in opening up to you and really telling you what their situation is. You with me?
Okay. That's super helpful.
Yeah, and it takes some time. I mean, like I said, when you're so used to like assumptive selling, it takes a while to really come up with different languaging. Like you got to use words like maybe, sometimes, possibly, I'm not quite sure, and step back. So, salespeople, and I used to think the same way when I first got into selling because I was taught that you have to know everything about your product, your service. You have to seem knowledgeable to make yourself competent. But every salesperson in the prospect's eyes always is assumptive and always appears to be competent. And it's not like you're acting dumb. You're just stepping back and saying, I'm not sure if I can even help you yet. I'm not quite sure. And you're being honest because you don't know unless you do what? Unless you ask questions to find out what their situation is to see if you can help. And there might be certain times you ask some questions and you find out what you're doing really is not something that could even help them. And and I've done this in the past. Like when I sold coaching services or marketing conferences for like $30, $50,000, I would, 5-6 minutes into, I'm like, based on what you've told me, Mr. CEO, what we're doing here, I'm not quite sure can even help you. So what I would suggest to you, there's some other companies that can do this, and they'll be like, well, wait a minute, hold on, like what? So like, is there a way we can work with you? And they would just come back and be like, well, how do we work with you? Because you're just detached. You're just detached from the expectations of making the sale, and you're instead focused on whether or not you can actually help them. And when they feel that from you, they look at you completely different. They're like, wow, this person's really in this for me, not them trying to, make a sale and just, throw me over their back and go on to the next person. So they treat you completely different. You get the business, you keep the business. It doesn't matter if your competitors are charging 30% less. They just don't go anywhere. There's really no competition at that point. And that's going to take you a while to get to that level, but you keep going through that training, stay on these calls, asking your questions. You'll get there for sure.
Thanks, Jeremy. That's a load of information, a wealth of information. Thank you.
Good, man. Good. That was an excellent question. Okay, guys, we've got time for a couple more questions. So, Chuck, I'll have you go ahead and mute out. Press *6 just in case you got any background noise. So *6 to unmute yourself. Who's got the next question? *6? *6, guys, to ask me any questions.
Hey, Jeremy, can you hear me?
Yeah, who's
Hello? This is Ben Meyer out of Wichita, Kansas.
Hello?
How are you doing today?
So we've got Ben Meyer. Okay, we've got a lot of background noise. Hold on one second. Okay, that's better. All right, Ben. So you're a Wichita State Shocker. All right, guys, we've got too much background noise. I'm going to mute out real quick the floor, and then, Ben, I'll have you unmute yourself. Hold on.
Okay.
All right, Ben, go ahead and press *6, Ben, on your phone.
Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear. All right, so Mr. Wichita State Shocker, what do you sell?
Well, I'm in real estate, business coaching, getting into e-commerce online.
Okay. So you sell real estate coaching right now?
I operate in real estate, so was flipping houses, but looking to get out of that. It's a pretty difficult market just for the long-term scale of the work put into it. So.
Okay. What do you sell right now?
So I help people buy and sell houses through real estate. I do have my license and a team
there. So
there.
you're also a realtor as well. Okay. All right. Good.
Yep.
Okay. What's your question, brother?
Well, I kind of know I have a pretty hard-driving D-type personality, and so when I go to start asking these questions, it starts to come off as pretty interrogative, and I see people flame up.
Okay, so first of all, tell me what products of mine you actually have.
Let's see, I've gone through the 21-day sales challenge. I think I bought 5 different ones through your 7-figure sales training. Going through 8 weeks right now.
What week are you on?
On the 3rd week. And got a few of the questions from there, but some of those questions.
So you're just barely starting. Okay, so like I told Alan, I'm okay with, because week 3 through 8 is really where you learn the right questions to ask and when to ask them in the conversation. Okay, but if you're just starting at week 3, you've probably only learned a little bit of those questions. You haven't put everything together.
Yeah.
So you got to be really careful about diving in and oh my gosh, I'm asking 3 questions. I don't know what to ask next, or what do I do next? And then you revert back to what? Usually your old way of selling, right?
Yep.
So it comes off differently. So when you say you have, I think you said an A type of personality, give me more detail about what you mean when you say that.
Well, I guess I'm not too afraid to. I know in the past I've gotten in trouble with saying things to people that were maybe a little too blunt. And I had good intention. It's just the way it comes off.
Okay,
and
so
it's
give me some examples of what you mean by that, just so I understand.
Well, the funniest one I can think of is not even business related, but it paints a good scenario with my girlfriend, and she was getting ready, and she was putting her makeup on or whatever, and just the way I said it, the way it came across, didn't come off at all when I said, I really appreciate how hard you worked to look beautiful. And I put my hand right up to my head, and I just wanted to shoot myself. It's like, that's not at all what I meant.
Okay, so and I understand what you're saying. So I want you to give me a business example, though. Give me a business example of what you mean. Like you come across too blunt, but give me some examples of what you mean by that in business.
Oh, so like we'll be exploring like what people are doing, and they'll be like, well, I don't have time, I don't have money to do it, or I can't afford this house, or they'll give me some kind of objection, and I'll kind of just say to them, well, you don't change anything, you see anything changing. And it's just kind of from there.
People typically react when you do that?
They clam up. They kind of, it shocks them, so they see things a little differently. But then at that point, they're kind of like, he's too harsh with his truth.
Well, they get what? They get defensive, right?
Yep.
So that's normal human psychology. When somebody comes at us and says things to us that make us feel uncomfortable, especially when they make statements like that, think of a politician. When a politician makes a statement to another politician about how they're wrong, what does that other politician typically do back?
Yeah, they start bickering back and forth.
Yeah, they become defensive, right? They become defensive, and they think they're feeling attacked, so they start attacking back. And if your prospects are becoming defensive towards you, do you think it's going to be harder to sell them your solution?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. 100%. So we got to be really careful. So A-type of personalities are amazing for sales as well, but you have to learn how to keep that to yourself. Okay?
Yeah.
So instead
how would you
of
recommend
telling people,
instead
of telling people, so that same question you said, where they're like, oh, they're making excuses about how they can't get back, and you said, well, tell me again what you said. You said, well, if you don't do anything, what's going to happen? So you can rephrase that into what I call a consequence question. You're going to learn consequence questions in week 6. You can say something like, so, John, can I ask you something? Yeah, sure, go ahead. And I don't want to offend you when I ask you this, but what are you going to do here if nothing changes? If you just, if you just stay in this house that you're at right now for the next 5 or 10 years? So you can, and whatever the example was, but do you see how I said the same thing you did, but I said it far more neutral and appropriate, and it will help them possibly question their way of thinking rather than me becoming aggressive towards them. I basically said exactly the same thing you said, but I said it completely more neutralized and calm. And when I say that, people are like, oh, yeah, you're right, or I know what you're talking about. Well, are you willing to settle for that? No, we're not willing to settle. Well, why now, though? And so you're probing deeper. So that's what we call consequence questions. We have a whole training on that within part of week 6. You're going to learn those in week 6. Like I said, I don't want you to jump around that. Don't go automatically to week 6 right now.
Right.
Keep going through week 3, then 4, then 5, then 6. Then there's a reason why I put them in that order. Okay? Because in week 8, you're going to have the PDF script to print off. Where I put about 3 or 4 questions in each stage, and you'll pick a few of those and kind of map the training in with your specific questions for what you sell.
Okay. Do you have a good recommendation how to kind of get in that state, which you're very good at, getting in that calm, neutral, reassuring state for somebody who's pretty naturally aggressive, how to go, all right, I know I need to tone myself down. How do I kind of come out from that standpoint?
Here's what I would suggest. I would start learning how to do it in your personal life, okay? So in your personal life, I want you to start practicing being more calm and relaxed and listening. So let's say your girlfriend starts to argue with you or whatever. Instead of arguing back, I want you to listen to her, everything she says, nod your head, okay, right? Okay. Can you tell me more about that? Or I apologize. How has that made you feel? And start using that in your personal life. And when you start doing that, it's going to start translating in all aspects of your life. So this is not necessarily even, obviously, as you guys come here to me for sales training, and I give you sales training to get you those results, but I find a lot of people, it changes their whole life and everything else they do as well, because they become a more understanding an open person, which leads other people to becoming more open to them, which creates far more opportunities and relationships in their life. See that?
Yep.
So I would start practicing in your personal life as well. If you get a haircut, sit there and listen to the stylist talk about their lives and all their stuff, and ask some questions around that you're learning, some background questions. Oh, how long have you worked here for? Just anything. It doesn't really matter. But start practicing that way in your personal life, and it will start to that calmness and that tonality will start to translate into your business life as well. That's what I would suggest.
Okay. Yeah, appreciate it, Jeremy.
Good question, man. All right, guys, we got one more question. *6 on your phone. Who's got the last question for me today? *6 on your phone.
Hello?
Guy. Yeah, who's this?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you kind of got a little bit of background noise.
Yeah. Sorry, man. I'm at work.
No worries.
Yeah, this is Joe.
Joe, okay.
Yeah.
And where do you live,
in
Joe?
Washington State.
We got a bunch of guys coming out here asking questions. I don't know where all of our other members are, but you live in Washington State. What do you sell, Joe?
Well, commercial cleaning services like carpet upholstery.
Okay.
A friend of mine has had the business here for a number of years, and then I came up here about 5 months ago to do the commercial side of it. So I'm the guy
commercial cleaning services. Who do you sell to? Do you go talk to businesses, business to business? Do you call leads? What do you do?
Well, I've tried calling, and actually with this town out here, it's better, more personal, face to face. So
okay, so you
I
typically go face to face, right? So business to business. Okay, so more of a B2B sale. Okay, what's your question?
Well, I'm the one who left the email or the message saying that I think the training might be a little too sophisticated, and that I don't think a lot of the first of all, I bought the 8-week training. I went to all 8 weeks, did the 21-day challenge. I printed all the PDFs, and I've tried to commit some of those to memory the best I can. Like, I get chopped up when I'm actually there.
So my question is, because you obviously haven't learned how to apply it to your industry, because I've trained salespeople in your industry that make multiple 6 figures in your industry, just so you're aware. So when you say the training is too sophisticated, tell me what you mean by too sophisticated.
Well, for instance, I went to a hotel, nice hotel, and I said, yeah, can I speak to the person who's in charge of cleaning or maintenance? And that'd be me. I'm the general manager. Great. And I said, I wanted to find out about, what the process is, your process about introducing new bids. I have a company and I had to do a bid for you.
Okay, can I make a suggestion, Joe?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, your first mistake is exactly what you just told that general manager, because I'm going to suggest to you every other salesperson who sells something that's talking to that general manager says something very similar to what you're saying.
Right, but going off of the training, I can't just go in. I'm sorry, I didn't cut you off.
Yeah, so we would never have you say something like that. That's not part of our training at all, because you would be just like any other salesperson selling anything. Who's in charge of who's in charge here? Who's the decision maker? It's exactly what any salesperson would say from any industry. So first of all, they're going to label you as just another salesperson.
Right, and I've done everything I can to avoid that by doing the probing, asking the questions, doing my problem statement.
Okay,
what do you do? And I said, well, you know how.
Okay,
go ahead.
Okay, so you're doing bits and parts, but you're not doing it in the right order. That's why you're getting the pushback. Because if you go in and tell them what you just told me you're saying, I don't teach that at all. Okay, you would go in and say. Hi, my name is Joe. I was wondering if you guys could possibly help me out for a moment. Sure, how can we help you, Joe? Well, I'm not sure you could yet, but you know how, and then you would go into the problem statement. You wouldn't say, who's the decision maker here? You wouldn't say that at all in the very beginning. Okay, we don't teach that at all. So if you're confused on that, you need to go back to week 3, where we go over the problem statement and the personalized introduction. Now, let me hear your problem statement for an example, because Alan told me his problem statement about 25, 30 minutes ago. It wasn't a problem statement at all. It was just solutions because he's brand new. He hasn't learned it yet, okay? So if you're getting pushback because you're not
my problem statement is
the problem statement.
My problem statement is I said, well, you know how, in this case it would be a hotel. You know how hotels are finding it harder to rely on a company that takes care of all their needs, all their cleaning needs. They hire people. You don't know, who you're getting as far as the technicians are in there. Well, what we do is we provide a service where veteran owned and operated, and we've each have 26 years experience. What we do is we try to.
Joe,
huh?
Can I stop you right there?
Sure.
Okay, that's your issue. That's not even a problem statement. That's your personalized introduction. So you're not using the training yet. You're doing bits and pieces, and because you're not doing it like we're teaching you, you're getting some pushback. You're using bits and pieces. First of all, that's not a problem statement at all. That's a personalized introduction. And second of all, your personalized introduction is way too wordy, and it's focused more on your solution rather than their problems. So that's why it's not working. Okay? So we need you to go back to week 3 and actually go through the problem statement first.
Okay.
Come up with the problem statement. Then you're going to come up with the personalized introduction. You're doing it first. You're doing it completely first, not first. Okay?
Isn't the problem statement saying, well, you know how,
no.
But what we do is?
No. That's the personalized
That's not the problem. Okay.
Not at all. Not even close. So when you come in, because first of all, the way you introduced yourself was not how we train at all. That's completely opposite of how I would train you, and that's why you're getting so much pushback, because every salesperson says exactly what you say, and that's why you're getting the pushback. I will tell you that 100% of the time, okay? So asking good quality questions, they have to be skilled questions, Joe, and they have to be asked at the right time in the conversation. You're not just randomly asking questions expecting to become a $500,000 a year salesperson. You just wouldn't have those results, okay? So you need to go back to week 3. Look at the problem statement. That's where they say, well, sure, how can I help you? Well, I'm not quite sure you could yet, but I dropped by your office to see if your company would be open to looking at any possible hidden gaps in your blank that could be causing you to blank. And like I said, I don't know your industry well enough. I'd have to spend a little more time with you. If you come up with a problem statement, post it on the Facebook group or bring it to the Q&A next week, and I'll answer that for you, okay? And then when they say, well, how do you do that, or what do you mean by that? Well, I'll go over it. You know how a lot of hotels or companies or whatever are sometimes, notice your language is not neutral at all. It was assumptive because you assume that every company. So you're not using neutral language. And just like I went with Chuck. Did you hear Chuck's question like 20
Yeah, I did.
Okay. He was too assumptive, and that's why he was getting some pushback. Your statement was 100% assumptive, which is going to give you pushback every single time. So when you say the training is too sophisticated, you're not using what I'm training you. You're using bits and pieces, and that's fine. That's pretty normal when you're learning something new. When I first started learning how to communicate, I didn't become a multiple 7-figure salesperson 5 or 6 weeks after I learned how to do it, right?
Right,
it was over a period of time and practice, okay? So if you want to get to those levels, Joe, you're going to have to put in some time and really learn how to communicate. Otherwise, you're going to keep getting the same results that you're getting right now. Okay?
Right. That's what I do. I use it as an opportunity to go when I'm going to from place to place. I'm going over a few things, but I think you're right. I'm sure I know you're right,
bits and pieces.
that I'm bouncing around too much. It sounds very much like me.
Yeah, you're bouncing around, and that's okay. It's going to take some time, guys. And I get some people, I'll get an email like, oh, my gosh, it's been 4 weeks, and I'm not to the level I thought I would be. And I'm like, well, what week are you on? I'm on week 4. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you've got some learning to do. I mean, there's 15 hours of the 8-week academy, and once you get it down, from some of the other people that you're seeing in the Facebook group post their results, we've got some salespeople in there that are been going through that training for over a year, and now they're making over 7 figures a year as a salesperson. Yeah. Okay.
No, I didn't mean to offend when I said too sophisticated. I was just thinking maybe. I hear a lot of people doing like digital platform selling, selling really high stake kind of things. I'm not really doing that. I'm just trying. What I'm trying to do here, the big goal for me is to learn how to sell, because I haven't sold.
We have salespeople that sell anything from home security systems that are $30 a month to selling gadgets and gadgets at malls, that make $12 an hour, to salespeople who sell, multi-million-dollar contracts. It's all over the place. So it doesn't matter your product or service that you sell. It's a way of communicating that, according to behavioral science, is the highest form of persuasion. But for you to learn the highest form of persuasion, it's going to require some time to become great. No one I know in life in any industry that is one of the greatest at their industries got there after studying some material for a couple weeks, right? They become great because of their commitment to that excellence. Does that make sense? Okay? So just keep in there, man. If you got it, come up with that problem statement, go back to week 3, craft your problem statement. You need to recraft your personalized introduction because you're talking too much about 26 years of this and veterans of that, which is just really more sales stuff, right, your solution. And post what you have in that Facebook thread. And when I get a chance to look at it, if it's before the call next week, I'll answer, to the best of my ability on that, Facebook thread. And if not, show up to the Q&A next week, and we'll answer next week.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you,
Joe, man. Awesome. Okay, guys. All right, so next call will be next Tuesday, same time, 4 p.m. Eastern. We will go into more solution awareness questions training. So thank you guys for being on this call. This call will be recorded. It is recorded and will be archived probably late tonight, early in the morning if you want to go back and replay it. So this call is a wrap. I will see everybody next Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern here in the United States. Thanks, everybody.